Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. So one of the things that I think we've done a terrible job at as accountants in my profession is explaining and educating people on the difference between our various, titles or sub-professions, if you will, the different types of roles you can fulfill in the accounting realm. So, for example, bookkeeper, tax preparer, tax professional, tax strategist, accountant, CPA, bookkeeper, I think I said bookkeeper, CFO, right? All of these different titles. And what the hell are the differences between these people and which one do I actually need? I'm going to help you answer that today. But really, what I wanted to dive into with you today is what the hell is the difference between a CFO and an accountant? And who do I really need in my business? And you'll get that answer from today's episode for sure. But what I wanted to do is really highlight the fact that accountants and CFOs are not the same thing. And a CFO is not just a fancy term for an accountant. So let's start there. If somebody is doing your accounting, your bookkeeping, your invoicing, your payroll, things like that, that doesn't make them your CFO. They're your outsourced accounting department, basically. In a normal company, the CFO would sit atop an accounting department and have a controller underneath them, and then have an entire accounting department that's doing the work, right? So when you outsource your CFO function, you're not necessarily outsourcing every function. And you're not necessarily outsourcing just the accounting. And I'll explain what I mean by that in just a few short minutes. But I want you to think of this like you think about doctors. If you fall and break your ankle and you say, I need a doctor, and someone brings you a dermatologist, right? Or let's go out on a limb here and say a doctor of psychology, right? Someone who has a doctorate degree or PhD in another topic, right? It's like, no, not that kind of doctor, but you just said doctor. You just said doctor. And the word accountant or even CPA is kind of like that. Say, I need an accountant. Well, for what? And then we can find the right kind. Because we all have different specialties. We have different areas of expertise. Some people some CPAs, I don't know if you knew this, but some CPAs have never, ever touched taxes. They studied just enough to get through that CPA exam, and they have never touched a tax return. So when you say I need a CPA, it's not necessarily the CPA thing that you need. You need a experienced tax pro, which might happen to be a CPA. It's just a license. It's a credential, and it's not really indicative of what they know or don't know. So CFO is pretty similar. A CFO is not a catch-all. A CFO has a very specific set of responsibilities and duties for you. And before you go in your business and think you need to hire a CFO, let's just understand the key differences between accountants and CFOs. And you can kind of figure out where you're at, right? So I have three main differences I wanted to highlight for you today. And they're not as tactical in terms of like actual difference in their resume. I think you'll see what I mean. So the first difference is, are you looking through the rearview mirror? Are you looking in the rearview mirror? Are you looking in the windshield? And that's the difference. So the accountant will typically compile data of what already happened. They'll analyze historical data. They'll report historical data after it happens and present it to you and tell you, here's what happened. They typically live in the past. That's not a bad thing. You need that information. You should be getting that information monthly, right? So you want to get that information and you want to make sure you have those financial reports. That is their main focus. Now, a CFO is all about knowing where we've been, but where are we going next? And really forecasting, planning, and doing their best to predict either your cash flows, leading indicators like lead generation and leads coming in, different activities that are revenue generating, maybe even predicting your costs, understanding your monthly burn and analyzing to say, this is how much cash you have on hand, and you're going to run out of cash here in the year if you don't do X, Y, and Z. You see how that language is different? Like, you will do this if this doesn't happen, versus we did or we did not do this in the past. That's one of the key differences I see as a fractional CFO is folks hire accountants thinking that they're going to do a CFO's job, when in reality, they're kind of living in the past. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you just have to know what you're signing up for. If you want access to historical data, which you should definitely have, right? Because that's actually a key input into the CFO's job. You should be hiring an accountant or a bookkeeper, right, to track that data. But if you want to use that to generate decisions and KPIs and indicators as to what will happen in the future for your business, you want to have someone on your side who's filling more of that CFO role. So that's number one, past versus future. Number two, are they like a client service provider to you, or are they a member of your team? And this is more of an approach taken by both parties, because a CFO, especially if it's a fractional CFO, which I am fractional CFO to many clients, and I am a service provider. We have, contractor agreement and all those things. I am still a service provider and client service is paramount. But one of my core values is we are part of your team, which means we're involved in decisions. Like, we're at the table when discussions are happening around large launches or a project planning or new developments in the business. Like, we have a seat at the table. We're finding out about things before they happen. We're finding out about things as they're happening. And one of the biggest pet peeves probably for a CFO is to find out after something happened. I don't like having past tense. Say, we're thinking about doing this, not we already did it. We're part of the decision-making process because we provide the financial inputs into those decisions to be able to securely make those decisions as business owners. So by this difference, I mean, we're a member of the team, we have a seat at the table, and we are typically involved in the generation of ideas and the process, not just the outcome, not just the results. And from a client service standpoint, there's always kind of this arm's length, right, between you and a service provider. Like, if you just hired an accountant, you have an engagement letter with them, hopefully, that outlines the scope of your services. And chances are it's very simple. It's, we're going to do your tax return. We're going to do your monthly P&L balance sheet, your QuickBooks, whatever that may look like. You've got a very clear set of responsibilities that end in deliverables. And this actually leads me into the third difference, which is that CFO work is transformational, not transactional. I'll say that again. It's transformational and not transactional. And this is actually something that gave me a ton of clarity in terms of how I'm approaching my clients and my business. And I would challenge you to think about this the same way when you're delivering a high ticket offer to your clients. So are you providing a transformation or a transaction? And what I've realized is that when you're operating in the capacity of a CFO, you should be focused entirely on helping your client transform their business, grow, scale. You want the client's business to be unrecognizable a year later in a good way, in a good way. But what happens is most business owners treat accountants in the transactional tendency. I actually made this joke recently on a call. Understand where I'm coming from on this one, but I equated tax prep to April 15th one night stands. I like to call it that because it's kind of like for the clients that show up once a year, talk to you once a year, They're like once a year annual hookup and then they disappear and don't call you. And if you're not going on dates throughout the year and you're not like getting to know each other and building a relationship, then it really is transactional. It really is. It's as simple as an arm's length transaction once a year. And frankly, at least from where my business sits, that's not really exciting to me. What I want to do is sit in the corner with my client, strategize, whiteboard. I love a good whiteboard. And I want to sit down and actually dig in. I want to solve problems alongside them. And that's really the point is a CFO should be at your side as a sounding board. They actually serve as a coach and they actually serve to provide you accountability. This is kind of a side effect. They give you the accountability of knowing that they're going to be looking at your numbers, they have expectations, or they're helping you set your own expectations and goals. And if you're like me, I'm an Enneagram 3 and I am like I have semi people pleasing tendencies where I am very obedient. If you tell me, Shannon, we need this assignment by this date, I am so on it. You can ask my podcast editor as she's editing this right now. She knows I am on top of due dates. so when when clients, need to implement strategies and they need to, get things done, when they have somebody in their corner that's also holding them accountable with the calendar and saying, hey, you need to get us this on this date so we can start driving results forward, that is a huge impact. That is a huge impact. And a lot of entrepreneurs don't realize that that can be the missing link between them and getting the results they need is just the executive accountability that comes along with having a professional in your corner looking at the numbers and holding you to those because they do not lie. And that is where we can deliver the most value as a CFO. So if you're in your early stages of business and you're thinking, okay, I want this person. I need this person. I need this person to grow. I want a CFO. Here are the prerequisites to being ready to hire your first, fractional CFO. You definitely need to have accurate and complete bookkeeping done, meaning we have to have really good data to base these decisions off of. Now, some fractional CFOs, including myself, provide bookkeeping services to you, as part of their service, but some don't. Some just provide the CFO service. So just make sure you understand the whole scope of what they can do for you. But we definitely need the books to provide that elevated service. So the first thing you need to do is get really good bookkeeping. And if you need a bookkeeper recommendation, hit us up. We've had several on the show you can go check out and let us know if we can direct you. So the next thing you really need is just to have an open mind and be ready to engage with us around the numbers. The number one way to fail, I shouldn't say fail, but to not successfully work with a CFO is to be completely absent and to back away completely and say, well, I hired Shannon to be my CFO, and that means I never have to look at the numbers again. Like, that is not a healthy relationship. Not only does that put undue pressure on me as your service provider to then go, okay, well, now I've turned into the business owner. Now I have to make decisions by myself. No, we want to be working with you, not just for you. So we want to work alongside of you to produce the information you need in order to make those decisions confidently and show up empowered around your numbers. That's the whole point. It's not to take the power away from you. It's to boost it up and to make it so that you can actually show up, know what you're talking about, know your numbers and really feel empowered. So that's the goal, right? And if you're in your early stages and you're thinking, I do want this, but I don't have any of these things yet, Shan, that's okay. Set them up with a professional and you'd be amazed. In just a few months and maybe even a year, when you've grown to a certain revenue level where you can invest in a fractional CFO, you're going to want to do that as soon as possible because you'd be amazed at the results that get unlocked when you just invest in that growth. When you know that, hey, I need to hire a CFO because I know that I'm going to reach that next level with their help, right? I'm not going to wait till I get there to hire them. You're not going to wait till you lose 40 pounds to hire a trainer. That's not the point. Let us help you get there. So I hope this has been insightful and helpful to understand accountant versus CFO and the labels that we get thrown around with in the accounting profession. Hopefully that adds some clarity into what we do and what you may be looking for as an entrepreneur. So, if you are interested in exploring any of our services, please click on the link in the show notes and let me know. You can always text me or chat with me in the Keep What You Earn community if you have any questions. We're also happy to give out referrals to other professionals as well. And we love matchmaking you to somebody who really fits your style and your needs. So hit us up if you need any help with that. Hey there, are you looking for more tax and accounting help for your small business, but tired of the confusing jargon or feeling judged for your questions? This is exactly why we created a completely free Keep What You Earn community centered around this podcast. This community is a space to ask questions, hop on our monthly connection calls, and explore more information about our episodes and our guests. Click on the link in the show notes to join us in this month's call to chat with me and our other guest experts. See you there. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.